Thank you. Thank you for the introductions, and thank you, Shalini, thank you, Srinivas, for being part of this discussion. This is what I call a powerful opening context in terms of the power this specific topic carries in terms of from an execution engine to an innovation powerhouse. So that's something which we will be talking about. As we specifically talk about how the GCCs have evolved, if we just look into for the last 24, I would say, talking about last 2 decades, it has been around execution, speed and scale. That is one thing which we have been looking into. But recently, there has been a fundamental shift in terms of thinking, in terms of how the GCCs are evolving. There is a mix of what we call product and SaaS, which comes in when we talk about this shift. And even from a boardroom perspective, the questions are shifting. It's around AI acceleration, it's around the SaaS platform evolution, it's also around the rising enterprise expectations in terms of how do we kind of look into the evolving GCC ecosystem. And one thing which we've seen enterprises are asking is, where does innovation truly live? That's one of the fundamental things which every organization has been looking into. And this is not just I would say, a capability shift, it's actually a power shift also. A lot of GCCs from a maturity perspective are experiencing this, and I'm sure Shalini and Srinivas, you would have been experiencing the same. There are a lot of discussions happening also in the, what I call the other zone, in terms of very similar in terms of what that power shift looks like. So we wanted to continue with that discussion. And some of my thoughts, what we are witnessing as being part of 3 GCCs, Ericsson, Nike, India, and I've seen that basis conversations with my peers. There is an emergence of a very different model, what we call a native SaaS GCC, which is emerging. So today we will cover 3 aspects. One, of course, we will look into what we call what triggered this inflection point. Second, we will talk about what defines an innovation powerhouse. And then, very important from a leadership, from a talent perspective, what leadership and talent models must evolve to kind of take this together. So let me first start with you, Shalini. Over the past, I would say 24 to 36 months, if I just talk about this fundamental shift, right, from market dynamics to AI acceleration, from your vantage point, what changed enough to kind of move these GCCs from an execution engine to more of an innovation ownership perspective?
Very important question, Kapil. Before that, thank you. Thank you for inviting, and I'm truly excited to be part of this. I was reflecting on this question earlier, and probably not just 24, 36 months. Let's maybe take a bit more step back. I think COVID era really changed a lot of industries, a lot of business models, a lot of thinking about what is the art of possible. We also inflated a lot of businesses, and some businesses deflated. So I would probably start there. I think that's where, especially since you mentioned about SaaS as a market, I think SaaS really took, if you just take a valuation lens, we used to be 20x in that range before 2021. It dropped to about 6 to 8x. So that's a big shift. The reason the shift started is this whole execution engine to innovation powerhouse has been going on. If you look at trace the GCC journey, the journey has always been towards pushing on innovation, and not innovation for the sake of innovation, but to drive enterprise value. Ultimately, it's about how you're driving enterprise value. And I think what has changed, one is this whole market shift, which is, okay, what really lies within the customer ecosystem, what lies in the SaaS vendor ecosystem. And that shift is happening. Industries are absolutely getting smacked with digitalization. Every industry, I mean, you take some of the progressive ones like your BFSIs and retails versus hardcore oil and gas and real estate. Every industry is getting digitalized. So that change has brought in a huge amount of churn, which has had churn both internally in the organization and externally in the marketplace. And consumer expectations are absolutely different. I I think all these three have affected all of our businesses. Now when you look at the last 24, 36 months, what has changed is the visibility of this problem / opportunity has become skyrocketed. The reason because of the ChatGPT demo that happened. It was just a demonstration, but it just opened up the entire art of possible of what you really need software for. And the second corollary question was, what really is execution? And the Uber question was, what is intelligence? So I think all these three questions are getting changed. Today, intelligence has become a lot more cheaper and democratized. We used to connect value to how intelligent either as a person you are or as an organization you are. But today that's available. Execution today, both at speed, somewhat cost. Cost is questionable, but it'll settle down. But both speed and cost, absolutely execution can be taken care of if you can redesign your workflows through this entire technology. So then the question remains, what really is the value? Not just for GCC, but as a business, right? So I think that's the biggest shift. And as this has happened, the boardroom conversation today, I just came back 2 weeks ago from our own board meeting. Questions are completely different. We are being asked to measure at a board level, which is essentially a financial entity, but they are asking what level of technology investment are you putting in, what percentage of your technology investment is now AI. Second is, remember in any organization, R&D is a cost. But today, they're very, very interested in what the cost is because they are saying a higher outsized percentage has to be around AI and technology. Second is, are you really looking at the problems you're solving? And are those problems still relevant in an AI era? So, which applies to any part of the function we run. It's not just engineering, right? Whether it's professional services, customer care, finance and accounting, HR. So that's the second question that's being asked. Third is all of this tied to, you have an X amount of revenue stream, you have a set of margins that you're driving to. How are you ensuring that the percentage of revenue stream with AI attached is going much higher than your regular? Second is, in your margin, how are you creating an outsized impact on margin? So these are the three questions. All the three questions are now being asked to the GCCs,
Right.
which was never the case in the past. So these are, I would say, the three shifts.
Absolutely. I think one thing which you well said is that as part of ChatGPT as well, right, there was a what we call it AI urgency which came in. Right? But in parallel, there has been what we call a long-term enterprise trust amongst the GCCs, which has been built from the headquarters, and that's where this shift is kind of taking that picture. So absolutely. Now, if I just build on the innovation powerhouse, Srinivas, one of the questions which comes in is that when does a SaaS GCC truly become an innovation powerhouse? Is it more of roadmap ownership, platform authority, P&L, or it's around accountability which comes in? So over to you for your thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Kapil. I think Shalini set a very good context to this question, right? I think this is a conversation that almost every company is going through. And the way I think about it is the question about at what point does it shift? I don't think it's just one single point in time that you suddenly shift into an innovation powerhouse. All the different things that you mentioned, I see them as the dials of a radio, right? I mean, there are some points in time where you can dial something up, depending upon the opportunity that you have. Or in some places, you may have to dial something down, right? One of the things that I liked in the keynote, I think when Vikram and Lalit were there, Vikram talked about this quadrant, right? Ambition versus capability. And if you look at it, it gives you a nice 4-quadrant view, which is essentially your GCC maturity, right? And the industry has defined, the different points in time. But the corollary to that is each GCC is unique. So your maturity will be very different than somebody else within the same domain as well. So the key thing is for you to understand where you are in this maturity curve and look at what opportunities are there in front of you, which is essentially what you can dial up and dial down. So that's one way to look at it. But underlying all of this, I think 3 structural shifts have to happen, right? One is decision centricity has to come to the GCC. If for every single thing you are still going back to the HQ, you may not be the powerhouse that you want to be, right? Somebody is still watching over you. So how can you work on that decision centricity? That's one. The second one is what can you do in terms of shifting the economic accountability to the GCC, right? You may have product managers, for example, you may have teams that are building a product end to end, but if somebody is not asking you, saying, what's your contribution to the top line, you're still not where you need to be. And the third one is this customer centricity, and this could be difficult for some GCCs because of where they are, but having a good understanding of the customers, their pain points, and the domain, the problem that you're trying to solve, makes you come up with new ideas, makes you come up with different innovations. So my yardstick for my leadership team or even the different people that I have is if you can explain in one sentence the revenue impact, the product architecture that enabled it, and the customer adoption and impact. If you can tie one sentence for this, for everything that you're doing, you're becoming an innovation powerhouse, because then you're seeing the connection.
No, absolutely, and I'll just build on that part where you mentioned the overall accountability of revenue. I think that part is also very important when you really want to look into can innovation genuinely exist in the organization. It has to be around accountability of revenue, and it has to be around customer outcomes. Where we look into from a GCC perspective, what are those customer outcomes which are coming up, and how do we take it and get some more buy-in from the headquarters. Thanks a lot for that. Now, let me spin that now with an extremely important aspect which comes in around talent. Right? There has been a lot of debate around talent reinvention, the overall talent reskilling, and as the AI is writing the software and products, right, there is always this question which comes in around how do we redesign this hiring philosophy? How do we look into from a leadership DNA perspective the capability architecture which look like? So more importantly, if I just look into Shalini, what is your thought in terms of if we look into from a hiring perspective, do we hire more creators and product thinkers, or what is that shift we need to kind of look into?
The lines are so getting blurred in SDLC, believe me. I think that's the biggest change. Let me abstract that. I think today more than any other time of point in time, we really need to double down on domain. Irrespective of what role you're playing. I think I am so deeply convinced that that's the way for us to really add value, because ultimately, when you think of an automation potential for everything that you can do, and if that should make you 10x productive, what does that really mean? It only means that you will have to have that uniqueness, which is your business domain. I think each of us, irrespective of which seat, which role we sit in, I think that's going to be the number one question, because this is what builds the latest rage that's going on context. So ultimately, LLMs, and on top of it, what you're building, everything again is becoming commoditized. What really remains unique is context. So business context. Second is leadership. All of us, whoever is in this room, as leaders in any form or fashion, we all need to redefine what we do in this age. Crazy things like, okay, I mean, I don't know how many of you are seeing this whole mold book and open claw phenomenon. God knows how our organizations are going to look. The shape is going to be very different. You're going to be managing humans plus agents. You're going to be managing yourself with agents. You're going to look at constantly almost honing the skill of what do I trust? Because the amount of information that's going to be thrown at each of us and our teams is so humongous. So what will you actually trust? So we have to build the ability to trust and build the next level leaders to take judgment. So these are some of the main thoughts in my head. Of course, there's technical skilling and prompting and all the others, but I think these are fundamentals.
So Srinivas, just building on that very quickly, do you think versus the traditional reskilling to what we have right now, are we moving very fast in terms of reskilling people?
Again, I think it depends on how important this transition towards AI is for a given GCC. I think in the case of Upland, I can speak about what we are doing. The AI journey for us began a year ago, and while we were thinking about AI within the products, we also realized that skill was getting compartmentalized, right? People were experimenting in isolation. The knowledge was not uniform. So one thing that we did over the last 6 to 8 months was we said, let's try to get everybody onto the same base, right? So we did a massive training on AI tools across the organization. It's a little bit complicated for us because we are a fully remote GCC, right? So it's very difficult for us to kind of watch over people, what they're doing. So we said, okay, we trust you, we know you're learning, let's try to understand and train you up on that. But once you train, you still don't know to what level they know what they're doing, right? So that's an exercise that we are starting right now, which says, what's the capability that we have and how deep is that capability? So I was just talking to Shalini in the speakers lounge on how we are thinking about it, because you need to know what your people are doing for you to really see if that upskilling needs to go further up or you need to do something different, right? So that's something that we are focusing on right now, so that it gives us that visibility. And of course, leadership needs to also speak that term. And once I believe we finish that part, we will start thinking about interventions, right? What do we need to do to now raise the bar around it? So that's how we are tactically looking at it. It's a journey. AI is a program. It's not a point-in-time intervention. So programs can have iterations. So you need to iterate, learn, continue to improve.
It's a journey and it will continue. Yes, absolutely. So
never be pressured by the industry.
Yeah.
Your GCC journey is unique, so you decide what's right for you.
So closing lightning round, just if you can complete the sentence, Shalini, the GCC leader of 2030 must be this and must stop doing this.
GCC leader of 2030 must be fearless and must stop being a GCC leader.
Okay.
We are part of a business. There's no more GCC as a construct.
Yeah, I mean, slightly different usage of the term, but the GCC leader of 2030 must be an economic value creator. How you create the economic value is up to you, right? Different opportunities. But what you should not be is a cost center administrator or just an order taker. And in fact, for economic value creator, I'd say also be a person who can create jolt, right? You heard that name today morning. Be the person who creates those jolts.
Fantastic. So thanks a lot. The AI native GCC is no longer about scale, but ownership, as you mentioned, influence, and the innovative leadership. Thanks a lot for the session. Thank you all.
Thank you, folks.